Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is a buying video, tip buying video, excuse me, because I know winter's coming up. I think it's November 12th, and it's like 57, 60 degrees out here by Chicago. But anyways, since winter's coming up, you might be interested in buying a bike. So you're probably wondering, should I buy it off of Craigslist? Should I buy it from a dealership? Should I get Craigslist dealership, used from the dealership, brand new from the dealership? It's all the same stuff. So this is a buying tip video. Personally, this video is going to be more focused on buying stuff from Craigslist, but you can also look for this kind of stuff at a dealership, as dealerships like to rip people off too, as we all know that. But anyways, getting started. When you check out the motorcycle, you look at all the pics online. Okay, you say, okay, maybe it's a good bike. I read the ad and everything. I'm going to go check it out in person. When you check it out in person, you want to take your absolute most time as possible looking over the bike, feeling the bike, asking the person questions. Don't get too excited. That's number one. If you get too excited, there could be something that you missed when you're checking it out. Don't do that. I've done it in the past with bikes, and they ended up running pretty good, and then next day they're a piece of shit because I missed something. The other thing is, you want to look at how old the buyer is. Is the buyer young? Is he in his mid-30s, late 60s, something like that? Because that'll tell you too how the bike was also taken care of. Now, I'm not saying all young people trash their bikes, but most of the time the younger crowd will beat on their bikes, and they won't keep maintenance up to date. So that's another thing you want to factor in. But get a feel for their personality, because that'll help you out a lot too. Some people say, yeah, it's a really good bike, it may look really good, and then it's a piece of shit because they like to scam people. That shit's happened to me too a lot of time. And yeah, so here's the first thing that you want to look at, obviously, of the bike is what's the physical appearance of it. How does the fairings look and everything? As you can tell, my fairings and the bar ends right here, you can tell that it's been dropped. There's no denying that it's been dropped. This bike has actually been dropped 3 times. So places that you'll obviously see how you can indicate if a bike was dropped is if you look at the muffler. You look at, obviously, the bar ends. You can look at the mirrors, see if there's any scratches on the mirrors. And obviously, of course, the fairing. You can do the engine case, the brake levers, and the foot pegs, see if those have been bent or anything. If you have, what's it called, these turn signals, you can look at all that stuff and you can indicate, has it been crashed or not. Now, they might change out the fairings. They change out the fairings, then you got to look even harder, and that's where you really got to look at like the engine case, and you got to look at the exhaust. You have to look at the pegs, because they're obviously going to miss something that they're not going to replace unless they have insurance to cover the whole thing. The other thing that you want to look at, I could tell by the tire, by the bike, is the tire. You want to look at if the tire is has wear and tear on it. Obviously, the chicken strips over here and over there on the sides, you want to look at that, and you want to look if they've done any burnouts. Like, I've done burnouts, so I don't think you can see it right now, but when this tire is on, because there's rocks and stuff on here, but when it's normal, you can see the strip down here of me doing burnouts, and that's to indicate that I've been doing burnouts. So this bike has been beaten on. Everybody knows it. The other thing you want to look at is the chain and sprockets. You want to look if they've taken care of their chain and sprockets, because if they haven't taken care of their chain and sprockets, that's basic maintenance, and that's an indicator that you can probably drop the price right there. I mean, you want to make sure that the chain is tight and adjusted right. You want to make sure if the teeth on the sprocket are in normal shape. I need a new sprocket as my teeth are wearing down. You want to look at if the teeth are curved like a shark fin. I believe that means that they engine brake a lot, and if they're curved backwards, that means that they accelerate really fast. Or maybe it's the other way around, I'm not sure, but I know one of the two. I know that shark fins are bad, or if there's any teeth missing on the sprocket or stuff like that. You also want to check out the chain slack, if there's no play in the chain, clearance, and obviously all that good stuff. The other thing that you want to check out is engine oil. You want to ask them what kind of oil they use. How frequently do you change it? What kind of oil filter do you use? Where do you go to get your oil done, or do you do it yourself? So you want to look at the oil. That's another big thing that I like to look at too. Also, the other thing is that when you see the bike, when you go look at the bike, you want to ask the person. Well, you don't want to ask them. You kind of want to be like, you want to like keep it a secret. But the thing is, when you go look at a bike, you want to touch the exhaust. My shit's hot because I was just riding it, so I don't really want to touch it. You want to touch it and see if you're gonna start it up on a cold start or if you're starting it up on a warm start, because that'll also indicate if maybe the bike has problems starting on a cold start, and it doesn't really run good when it's cold, and then once it warms up it's good, which means you're gonna have problems later on in the thing. The other thing is you want to check the coolant. Ask them what kind of coolant they use, if they do coolant flushes frequently, and you want to check the brake pads, the rotors, that stuff, all that good stuff. So then when you actually go and what's it called, when you actually go and you're about to, you say everything checks out physically wise and you like it, and now you say, okay, can you start it up for me? So when you start it up, you want to touch the exhaust, make sure it hasn't been ran before you got there. Obviously if they bring it to you, then you probably know it runs pretty good, but take it around the block, see if it runs how they say it's running. And then when you start it up, I think mine's in gear right now. It should sound something like this. It should start up right away. It shouldn't hesitate to start up. It should start up right away. And then once you get it started, you want to look at the RPMs. RPMs will also tell you if it's been cold or if it's been warm. My RPMs are at 1,100, so obviously it's warmed up. When it's not warmed up, it'll typically be around 2,000, 2,200-ish, around there when it's not warmed up. And you'll hear it in the engine too, because it'll be loud. The other thing you want to check when you're buying a bike is you want to check out the suspension. The forks, you want to check out the forks. If the forks right here have oil running down it, that means that the fork seal needs to be replaced. You want to check those forks out. I don't know how to check out the rear suspension. I think if it's too soft, then I think you need to change it. I'm not sure if that's true or not, because some of them like them firm, some of them like them soft, some of them set them up for how they ride. So that is how you tell if your bike is good. You also want to check the compression out the exhaust, how much air you can feel back. I can feel my air all the way back here. I can still feel it back here. So this bike, I know this bike has good compression. You want to listen for the engine, if there's any ticks in there. If it's ticking, it could A, either be low on oil, or B, be a valve adjustment. Your typical one is going to be B, a valve adjustment. So you want to hear it, and you want to know what kind of motor you're looking at too. This motor is a parallel twin motor. It's a little thumper, so it's going to have a little tick to it, but it shouldn't have a noticeable tick to it. The other thing you want to look at is the throttle response. If the throttle is sticking, or if it doesn't respond as well, it should be with a little touch. It should just go up. So you want to look at the throttle response on there. Everything else that I'm missing, electrical stuff, the brakes, you want to make sure that the brakes work really good. You can just walk it. I typically don't get on the bike. I walk my bike forward, or I walk the bike that I'm checking out forward, and I slam on the front brakes to see if they work. And then I'll walk it forward again, and I'll slam on the rear brakes to see if it works. That's to see if the brakes work, so they're not trying to kill me when I get on it. No problems. You want to check out the steering column. If it's too loose, if the steering's too loose, or if it's jittery, that's a bad sign. Make sure it's just right. Also, you want to check out the clutch. You got to get a feel for the clutch, see if it's going out or not, which typically on motorcycles they don't go out. because I believe most of them are a wet clutch, and I don't see how you could burn up a motorcycle unless you're doing a burnout and they're just riding the clutch. Then yeah, they're going to burn up the clutch. I don't see how it's possible. Yeah, indicate that the rear brake works and all that good jazz. So that's basically my buying tips. You can also run through the gears too. Try and run through all the gears, make sure they work. Downshift it a little bit, give it full throttle here and there, ride it normal, ride it for at least like 5-10 minutes, see what you think about it. That's if they let you. If they don't let you, it's kind of shady. It's up to you at that point. And that's all my tips I can think of when buying a motorcycle. After that, if anybody else has tips, put them down in the comment section below. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.